There's something so special. I've heard her say this a lot. I love taking things from set. Her team begged her not to do it. It is a damn crime. Are you kidding me? Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Kayla. I am a Canadian actress based in Toronto, and we're at it again. We are here with GQ, breaking down another actor's most iconic roles. For today's video, we are watching Winona Ryder break down her most iconic roles, which honestly, I don't know how GQ is going to find her most iconic roles, because when I think of Winona Ryder's career, every role is iconic. There is nobody doing it like Winona Ryder. When I think of Winona Ryder's career, every single character she has played, I can't picture anyone else playing it. Or if they were to play it, it wouldn't be the same. Especially during the 90s, she had such a unique look to her, but also a unique point of view. I just feel like every character she played was just so uniquely Winona. So it will definitely be interesting to see what they deem as iconic. I mean, just look at her career. She's done Heathers, Girl Interrupted, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands. I mean, everything she's done has been so unique. I'm pretty sure she's doing press for Stranger Things. Again, her comeback role. Iconic. It will be interesting to see what they pick. So without further ado, let's get into it. Of course, starting it off with Beetlejuice.
I met Tim when I was 14, I think maybe 15. I know we shot the movie when I was 15. I really wanted to go in by myself. I remember telling my parents, you have to wait in the car. Like, I want to do this by myself. I walked into this office. Tim came in, and I did think he was from the art department. They remember the first thing we started talking about was Edward Gorey, who I was kind of obsessed with, an incredible illustrator, which was just pure like coincidence. I didn't know Tim's sort of background. I just knew I was meeting on this script. We talked for about a half hour about old movies and Edward Gorey before I realized that he was, in fact, the director. I mean, he was 26, 27, and he looked like someone I would know, like that I would like see at a show, at a concert, or like a cool underground gallery or something. It was such a beautiful first impression. And it also was the first time I was offered something on the spot, which I was prepared to read, to audition. And I remember do you know when this Tim Burton guy's going to show up? He's like, oh, that's me. And I was like, oh. I kind of immediately went into, do you want me to, I'm ready to read. And he was like, no, I'd love you to do it. It just came so naturally to me. I feel like it was sort of, my baseline was like I dressed not to that extreme, but I was always in black. I dyed my hair 6 months before I met with Tim. I had dyed L'Oreal blue-black hair and very pale skin. And so aesthetically I was there, but also I think tonally there wasn't a ton of direction.
When I think of Winona Ryder, that is what I picture. I picture the pale skin and the dark hair. I feel like that was kind of like her signature look. When I think of the roles she's played, they all kind of have this dark undertone. To hear her say that was kind of her baseline is not at all surprising. I also love this story of her talking about just having a conversation with Tim Burton and not even knowing that he's the director. With auditions now kind of straying away from in-person auditions and becoming more self-tape, there is that connection that you kind of miss, something that you had in the room that you no longer can do. I do think that self-tapes are great, and I mean, it does take some of the pressure off of those jitters you get when you're in the room, especially when it's people you've never met before and you want to do a good job. That pressure is no longer there because when it's self-taped, you have a little bit more control of what you show and what you give them. With that being said, there's something about being in the room for an audition. There's an atmosphere, there's a feeling and a vibe, and there's sometimes where you can book a role not based on the work that you've done, but it is kind of the connection you made in that room with the director. With that conversation being eliminated, there is that kind of missing element. I've had auditions where I was a nervous wreck beforehand and then I just had a little conversation and immediately I felt safe and knew that I could do the work that I needed to do, and that just makes the audition so much easier and better. But on the flip side of that, it can be the opposite as well. Sometimes you walk in and it's kind of an icky vibe and there's a misconnect and it makes it more difficult for you to do your audition. So with the positive, there's also that negative, but that connection is being missed when you're doing self-tapes. But with self-tapes, you can do them at home. You don't have to be anywhere at a certain time and drop everything to make sure you're there on time. So it really just depends on preference.
He was so great at giving me an idea, or he doesn't like do line readings for you, but he just an idea of like what part of the line is to yourself and what part of it is directed and who's, like he was really great at that. And he was so beautiful. And I get emotional because I love him so much as a friend and a director and a mentor and everything. It's like an intimacy that is profoundly safe. And I speaking for myself, he was so protective of Lydia. I was at a very tender age, and it's certainly not lost on me that I've watched the kids on Stranger Things acting. I remember what it was like at that age.
I love that. It's so special to find a director who does that, who gives you that space. And because this work is so collaborative, everyone has to work together to be able to bring a character to life. There is a lot of inner work that has to be done. There is a lot that you are doing behind the scenes, but all of that can just go out the window if you are not safe. Not all directors understand that. Unfortunately, not all directors give you that. You can definitely see when an actor was given the space and the safety that they needed, because the performance speaks for itself. And especially hearing, because she said she was 15, especially hearing at such a young age. And I mean, Beetlejuice, while it is quirky and iconic, there are some very heavy topics that it discusses. I mean, it talks about death. Right. I think it also speaks to why they have worked together multiple times. Being able to find a director who, I think also because when I think of Tim Burton, I see he's another one of those directors that has his own signature style when it comes to his films. He speaks his own language when it comes to his film. Being able to find another collaborator who can speak that language sometimes can be so difficult, and it speaks to both of them as artists. I always love hearing positive experiences. Honestly, you bring out your better work when it's a positive experience. So yeah, love to hear that.
Because we had been talking about it for so many years, it almost happened, but you kind of realize, wow, everything really does happen for a reason, because Jenna Ortega is so crucial to that movie. And she wasn't, she wasn't born yet. So we were all sort of, I think she was a real linchpin. I was really nervous because it was sort of like, suddenly it was happening. It was going to happen. And I was so used to okay, but when is it going to be next year? It sort of came together, and I was probably exactly how Lydia would be handling the news, okay, I have a kid now. I'm a mom. I'm in this weird relationship that doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm really and I have the show, which is sort of so not Lydia. But in working with Tim about it, these things happen. They do. You find yourself at different points of your life in the weirdest situations doing things that you never saw yourself doing. So all the things that I was sort of nervous about inhabiting, I was already internalizing as Lydia. I could lean on myself, as everything, the stuff that's going on around her a lot of it is very puzzling. It made it weirdly easy to respond to as the character would.
Yes. It's funny how the work finds you when it finds you. The projects find you at the right time. And it happens more than you would think it does. I mean, even to hear her say that the film couldn't have happened at any other point, it's true. And I fully believe, like she was saying, that Jenna Ortega needed to be in that role. That just like I can't picture anyone else playing any role that Winona Ryder has played, I can't picture anyone else playing Jenna Ortega's role in Beetlejuice. To revisit a character, especially a character who was so already iconic, people loved, people already have kind of thoughts, feelings around them, to revisit that character at a different point in their life, but also a different point in your life, such a challenge, but so exciting. And you have to use your experience. That is what makes the work work. It's just so interesting how this stuff happens. I love hearing these kind of weird connects. If this didn't happen, or if that one thing fell through, then we wouldn't have had this piece of art. You never know when, where, and how your next project is going to happen. So
Tim, it's so interesting because I remember thinking, really me? But there was something actually, I think, about Kim that was very similar to Lydia, which was what she sees. There's a reason Lydia she can see the ghosts. There's a purity there. And Kim, if you really watch the movie, she reacts to Edward in the way, a normal way, which is she's absolutely terrified and does not understand why everyone's acting like this is normal. And then she grows to love him. Whereas everyone else loves him and then turns on him. Tim would say, you're the calm in the storm. You can get hung up on aesthetics. So what I was in was just the very opposite of me. And what was going on inside of her was actually not dissimilar to Lydia. Certainly it wasn't out of my comfort zone. It was actually a brilliant casting choice. It was a gift. It was such a gift.
I resonate with that so much, especially when she's talking about not getting hung up on aesthetics, because a lot of the times your costume, wardrobe, makeup, hair, all of that stuff, it can inform the work that you are going to do. Sometimes, though, it can be used as a contrast to what is going through, and that is totally what you see with her role in Edward Scissorhands. I mean, she has the blonde hair, which is completely opposite of any other thing she's done, and she's a cheerleader, and she kind of has what you would assume as kind of the preppy, peppy high school teenager. But her character is not at all a typical preppy high school teenager. Her character is going through a lot of questioning and underlining stuff. So yeah, it's just so interesting to hear her speak of this.
I was just given the pilot. I'd never done a series before. I didn't know what streaming was. This is 2015 was when I read it. And I didn't know where it was going. I didn't see it as doing what it has done because when we started, I didn't really even know what the end of the season would be. It's so different making a series. It's very different than making a film. To be just completely honest, it was like a big, I think, leap of faith for everybody. But I do remember meeting the kids, and they're all so different. They were so like authentic and completely just beguiling. Like they had like that unforced like charm that you have when you're that age and you're not like overanalyzing things. You're not seeing anything through a different lens. They were themselves, and it was magic. One of the great, I think, the best thing about this experience for me has been watching these kids grow up. It's very moving. I'm very proud of them, and I have so much love for them.
Funny also to hear her say that she didn't know what streaming was, to think that there was a point in time where streaming was new, and I don't think very many people really knew what streaming would do and how it would change the industry, because it has very much so changed the industry, whether it's for the better or not. On one hand, it's not really streaming's fault for the issues that may have come from streaming platforms. It is kind of a bigger picture that if I were to start, that would be a video on its own, and I don't want to go on a rant, so. But it is nice to hear her talk about that kind of respect, but also that protectiveness she feels towards the kids, because I think that's really important, especially given how young the kids were at the start of Stranger Things. At least having somebody looking out for kids on set needed. Again, a whole video in itself. So we'll leave it at that. Ah, yes. Heathers. Of course. That is right, kids. Before Heathers was a musical, it was a movie. And it was iconic.
I was given that script by Michael McDowell, who wrote Beetlejuice. So he was friends with Dan Waters, who wrote Heathers. I felt like such an insider, right? I got slid this script. I thought it was a masterpiece, which it is. I remember sitting in my bedroom in Petaluma, where I live with my family. I tracked down Michael Lehman's phone number, and I cold called him. And
cold calling anyone can only go one of two ways. There's no gray area. You either really impress the person you're calling and you make a really good first impression, or you freak them the fuck out and you ruin everything. So not something you want to do all the time, that's for sure.
Michael gave me the script. I love it. I understand I may not be like physically what you might be thinking, but I had this phone call and he was incredibly sweet. When the movie found funding and auditions were happening, I went in and I did the whole, you don't have to, I don't care. You don't have to pay me. Almost, I don't care if it comes out. I was obsessed with the role, and I want to say, please. I don't think I had wanted anything and felt so connected to something. They took a chance on me, and I am forever grateful. Can I say, though, I have that monocle. I have the monocle. I have my Westerberg High ID and the clip but it's like laminated. And then I have the copies of the Heather Chandler note.
I love hearing this stuff. Little fun fact about me, I'm a very, we'll say sentimental person. I hold on to things. I love taking things from set. And I'm not saying like committing any crimes. Of course not. Not stealing all the time. If somebody ever says to me, hey, do you want this? The answer is always yes. I don't care if it's like a tissue. I love it when my actor friends show me things that they got from set. I have a lot of clothes that I have from set. Actually, some of my favorite pieces of clothing are from set. These earrings are from set. So love getting to take a piece of set home with me.
I'm like a fanatic about that movie. There are lines of other people. I love that I don't patronize bunny rabbits line. My teenage bullshit has body count. I mean, I loved her like going, wait, which of the West? Wait, East? Wait. Like it's just like, it's so Eskimo. Obviously these are very peculiar. It's just I think it's a real masterpiece.
I remember seeing in another interview where she talked about this film, her saying that her team begged her not to do it.
A lot of actors were really scared of the material. I remember a specific incident that will stay with me forever where my agent at the time, who I left shortly after this happened, got down on her hands and knees and begged me not to do Heather's. She said that it would ruin my career and I would never work.
I think that's so crazy. I get it because your team should be looking out for you and only wanting what is best, but the way she speaks of this film, you can just tell there's something so special. This is one of those roles that it's like lightning in a bottle. I don't think anybody else was doing what she was doing, and this film is so unique that I don't know how many people would understand the humor of it and be able to do what she did. Her talking about her appearance. I've heard her say this a lot. She said, for this film, I might not have the look or something along those lines. I might not be physically what you are picturing. I think that it is a damn crime that Winona Ryder thinks that she is not, or at least was not, beautiful. I think that that is fucking wild. When I think of Winona Ryder from the 80s and 90s, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? But I know it's because she had a very unique and different look. And if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know if not only her as an actor, I don't know if she could have a career if she were to be up and coming today, but I don't know if the films that she was in would also be made today. And I think that that's really honestly devastating to say. Even just the quirkiness, like this shot right here, where she's sitting in her room, like seeing this nightstand here with the like exclamation mark and quotation marks, and that's just so it's just so uniquely this film. I know I am stopping myself from going on a lot of tangents, but there is this kind of underlining dissatisfaction with the industry, I guess I will say, and it has to do with uniqueness, and it's really sad. I don't want to get bogged down with rants and my dissatisfaction in certain things, but it could be a video on its own. You know what? Maybe these will be videos on their own because I have a lot to say about it. So for now, I will leave it at that. Yeah. I mean, see, do you think that this film could be made today, would be greenlit today? Because I don't. I'm just saying.
I loved that I got that part. That was such a huge moment for me because I loved that Charlotte was this mass of like contradictions, which I think like a lot of teenagers are. She wants to be a nun, but she's like madly in love with Joe. It's exactly what you kind of feel like when you're going through it's like you have conflicting feelings all the time. You're massive contradictions. Working with Cher, like, are you kidding me? That was a huge gift. I'm forever grateful to her. And she really had an impact on me. Her friendship, her mentorship, her humor. I felt so close to her. I mean, I felt like related to her. And obviously Christina Ricci, who was her first movie.
What an iconic trio.
Fantastic in it. Like, we really did become like this little family. Cher was also like pivotal in a lot of like just personal ways for me. She started really when she was like 16. She had so much experience, and nowadays kids say like mother. It's like and I mean, she's sort of the ultimate, right? But also her friendship was just meant a lot to me and still does. Richard Benjamin, having been an actor, it's so interesting. I would love to like watch him direct that scene because it felt like the world went away and he brought everything up that we needed to feel. And it just worked. It worked for me. It worked for her. The way he did it, it was, I don't use this word a lot, but it was sort of magic.
I have chills. I fully believe that art does come from a place of magic. Call me crazy, but knowing how hard it is for everything to work out, to be able to tell the story that you want to tell, how difficult it is to make a film, how difficult it is to fund a film, how difficult it is to find other people who believe in your work, your story enough to want to help you bring it to life. Like, it is so hard. It is so hard. There is some kind of magic that is at work that makes it resonate with other people. Also, working with a director who's also an actor or has experience acting, they sometimes can know more about what it actually takes to get to where you need to. Again, I was speaking of that safe place that you need to be able to do what you're doing, especially with difficult scenes. And it's just, yeah, I will say, it's magical. Oh. Of course. Like, every role this woman has done is so major. What a beautiful career. Sorry.
It was heaven. It truly was heaven. It was, I remember I read the script, which I think was just a spec script that was like, it wasn't set up anywhere. It was such a gorgeous adaptation. I wasn't particularly looking to do Little Women because I love the previous versions. But this one, it was written so beautifully. I was kind of obsessed with Gillian Armstrong, and I really, really wanted to work with her. It was just like this perfect situation. And then obviously the cast, oh my God. I mean, how lucky was I? It was like kind of a perfect cast. It felt like just this sort of warm, like womb of every part of being a woman, you know, and because of the sort of the closeness of the sisters, and the sisters were all like very unique and very much their own person, but living together and living with this incredible mother that I was so, so happy that Susan came on. It just felt like everyone really, really wanted to be there and was really happy. I loved working with Eric Stoltz. I loved working with Christian. I felt like Christian and I had a very similar friendship to Joe and Lori, and it was just a really special time. Remember, I read the book when it was in galleys form, which is like before it's published into a book, because my parents are writers and they had a connection. I was very struck by just the way that the book opened, which was sort of, and I'm paraphrasing here, but like people ask me, how did I end up in like a mental hospital for this time? And I don't know how to answer it except that it's easy. That was very sort of striking to me because in the past, if you like look back, mental hospitals have mostly been depicted as like male, like Cuckoo's Nest or Asylum. You know, you don't usually think of women in them. You know, this was...
I think stories in general have been depicted as male.
1969, mental health was not really talked about at all. I thought it was so interesting at the time that she's talked to a therapist for 20 minutes and she ended up unable to leave this facility for a year, whereas in 1996 or whenever I read it, you could go to a place going, I'm really in a bad place. I need help. And they were like, well, we can keep you for a few hours, but then you're on your own. So I thought it was a really interesting opportunity to start a...
And even now, I'd say it's even worse. Now it's kind of like, well, you're not that bad.
About mental health, even then it was sort of difficult conversation. And I remember getting sort of having to do like a very personal interview, and there will always be like stigma around it. But I think we have come quite far.
Definitely have, but there is so much more we should be doing. And what a great film to end it on. Honestly, wow. Man, GQ really had their work cut out for them because, again, just looking at everything she's done, how do you find the most iconic roles when, like, everything you've done is iconic? So impressive. And it's really impressive, too, to think about the depth that she was able to bring to these roles, these characters at such a young age. It's really... It speaks to her as an artist, but I think it also speaks to the people she's worked with. Each role was so real and raw and personal, and I think that's why people resonate with her. That's why people love seeing her stuff. And I mean, I can't wait to see what more she has to bring. It's always so enjoyable, and it's inspiring, honestly, to watch these videos and hear these artists speak about the work they've done and see the care that went into each role, and I love it so much. Thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoy. If you did, make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet, and as always, I will have a link to the full video down below so you can give it a watch, and let me know, which role do you think is Winona Ryder's most iconic role? I personally think Heather's. I don't know, there's something about that role that's just so special. So yeah, thanks again, and I will see you next week.